Clark.
Thank you, Speaker. Speaker, I move amendments 1 to 15 as circulated in my name together.
The member for Clark, I'll just ask you to begin
Sorry,
by asking
I seek leave of the House to move amendments 1 to 15 as circulated in my name together.
I thank the member for Clark, and I'll just call the Minister for the Environment. Leave is being sought.
Yes, thank you, Mr Speaker. Of course, leave is granted.
I thank the Minister. The member for Clark may proceed.
Thank you, Speaker, and I thank the Minister. Speaker, I move amendments 1 to 15 as circulated in my name together. Now, Speaker, let me start by saying that standing up a federal Environment Protection Agency is a good thing. In fact, in 2021 I introduced legislation in the Parliament to do just that. Obviously, a well-designed and resourced, independent and accountable EPA that can give expert advice and act as a tough cop on the beat could be a game-changer to ensure accountability and compliance with our national environmental laws, re-establish community trust and, most importantly, to protect our natural environment. But sadly, Speaker, that is not what this bill gives us, because instead of establishing an independent EPA, this bill establishes the shell of an agency initially located within the Department of Climate Change, Energy Efficiency and Water itself. Speaker, how is that independent? How can the community have confidence in an EPA when it is being administered by departments and, by extension, governments who, on both sides, have a terrible track record of protecting our environment? Moreover, while a statement of expectations will be provided by the Minister, the government's EPA has no legislated guiding principles, duties or objectives to ensure that it will be focused on protecting the environment. The CEO would be appointed by the Minister with no real oversight, and the Minister will retain the power to call in any decision they choose, taking it out of the CEO's hands for any reason. In these circumstances, there's clearly no guarantee the EPA will be the frank and fearless regulator this country so desperately needs. And, Speaker, instead of establishing a transparent, accountable EPA with an independent board, or at least a parliamentary committee providing oversight and advice to the organisation, the bill provides for a sneaky, secretive advisory committee appointed by the CEO, whose members were chosen for reasons we may never know, which will provide advice, the content of which we may never know, and the effect of which on decisions we may never know. But it's clear Australians are sick of this stuff. Indeed, the outcome of the last election, which saw a record number of Australians deserting the major parties in favour of independents and smaller parties, proves as much. Clearly, the community is crying out for transparency and accountability, including in environmental law, and this government is failing to deliver. Speaker, all of this is why I'm introducing these comprehensive amendments based on my 2021 bill, which would establish a truly independent, strong and transparent EPA, an agency that depoliticises, streamlines and strengthens environmental regulation. Importantly, it will be structurally independent from the Department of Climate Change, Energy and Water, a fact which will bolster community confidence in the processes that are supposed to protect and conserve our natural environment. These amendments will also ensure the EPA can effectively and transparently exercise the administrative functions currently held by the Commonwealth concerning the EPBC Act. This includes issuing approvals, granting permits, auditing environmental impact assessments and monitoring post-approval impacts. This will ensure the EPA has the power to undertake both systemic and individual investigations into applications, environmental impact statements or any other documents received in support of an application. Moreover, the EPA will have the power to terminate an approval or issue a stop work order in circumstances where serious environmental harm has been caused or is imminent. Importantly, my changes ensure the EPA will be headed by an appropriately qualified CEO who is independently appointed for a fixed term and supported and overseen by a newly established Joint Committee on the Environment and Energy. To avoid even a perception of bias, senior staff will be prevented from having any potential conflicts of interest, including employment as a politician or lobbyist, in the 5 years preceding appointment to the EPA. Surely, Speaker, at a time when seeing the imminent collapse of precious ecosystems, when Australia is a hotspot for extinction and deforestation, and we're already facing unprecedented threats from climate change, a strong, independent regulator is more important than ever. Speaker, to close, I'll note that we mustn't forget that we also need a renewed sense of urgency from the government in the important task of reforming the EPBC Act so that the EPA has better environmental laws to enforce. The decision to split the long overdue environmental reforms was deeply disappointing and leaves many Australians with a sense that the government may be fiddling while our earth burns. I urge my colleagues to support these amendments and back a strong, transparent and independent EPA. Thank you, Deputy Speaker.
Thank the member for Clark, and I call the Minister.
Thank you very much, Mr Deputy Speaker, and I want to thank the member for Clark for moving these amendments. I know that he has a very long and distinguished record of arguing for greater transparency and accountability in the administration of our responsibilities as a government, and I truly respect where he comes from in moving these amendments. I won't be supporting them today. I won't go into all of the details because I think some of the issues I've probably covered in my remarks to other crossbench members who've moved amendments. The issue of the objects of the Act, again, I would remind the member that the objects of the objects of the acts that the EPA administer are very clear about the expectations of improving the environment and protecting biodiversity, and as well as the statement of expectations that the Minister sets for the EPA. Of course, every decision is published. Statement of reasons are available on request. There are additional transparency measures available. And I think some of the issues that the member has raised are actually quite complex technically, particularly in terms of how they relate to transitional arrangements. So we are happy to continue to work with the member for Clark through the Senate inquiry processes and beyond to see whether there are additional areas where we can improve the arrangements. Today we will not be supporting these amendments, however. Thank you.
Thank